Beef tenderloin is a great option for any special occasion meal. Although it's an expensive cut of meat, it's easier to cook than you might think. In this video, I'll show you each step for making a perfectly roasted beef tenderloin. If your butcher hasn't done so already, the first thing you'll want to do is trim up your tenderloin. Now you can certainly buy a tenderloin already trimmed, but you'll save a bunch of money if you do it yourself, and really it's not that hard. So, first step is to remove the chain, which is this long, fatty piece of meat that runs down the length of the tenderloin. It's perfectly edible. You can use it in stir fries or in stews, but it cooks at a different rate than the rest of the tenderloin, so we want to remove that. To do that, I just use the tip of a sharp boning knife and just start separating the meat. Use your fingers and just kind of find where it connects, and we're just going to cut that off. Okay. The next step is to remove this big layer of fat. So just find a little piece, lift it up, and then run your knife directly underneath that fat while picking it up with your other hand. And again, when I'm removing the fat, I'm just using the tip of the knife. That's giving me a bit more control so I'm not cutting into the meat itself. Once you have most of the fat removed, the next thing you want to do is remove this silver skin, which is this thin silvery membrane that stays really tough when cooked. To remove that, just slide your knife underneath the silver skin, hold it taut with one hand, and then run your knife right along that membrane all the way down until it's cut off. And just keep going, removing small strips like this until all of the silver skin is gone. Once one side is clean, go ahead and turn the tenderloin over and do the same thing on the other side. Next, I like to cut my tenderloin in half crosswise to make two smaller roasts. Two roasts are just easier to work with than one large roast. Also, this way, I can cook one more on the rare side and one more well done. That way, everyone at my table is happy. Now, I want my roast to be about equal size, so I'm just going to tuck this tail right underneath the smaller portion. The next step is to tie them. Got some butcher twine here, and I'm just going to tie the roasts at regular intervals. This is going to give them a nice, even, compact shape so they cook really uniformly. Now, when you're tying, you want the string to be nice and firm, but you don't want it to be so tight that the meat bulges. A nice firm knot. And it's handy to cut all the string before you start, so it's all ready to go, and you don't have to get your dirty hands all over the spool of twine. Now that my roasts are tied, I'm just going to go back in and trim this excess string. The best way to cook a beef tenderloin is a two-step process: sear and then roast. This gives you that nice crusty brown exterior without overcooking the middle. So I've got a skillet here that I'm just heating up with some vegetable oil, and I'm going to pat my tenderloins dry with a paper towel. This will help them to really get that nice brown crust. And then season them with some salt. Now I'm going to do one roast at a time because I don't have a big enough skillet to do them both. If you do have a really large skillet, you can do them both, but be careful because you don't want to crowd the pan, otherwise they won't get that nice brown crust. So lay your tenderloin in. I'm going to let this cook undisturbed until it's nicely browned on the bottom. And just keep turning the tenderloin until it's brown all over. You might have to prop it up with your tongs if it keeps falling over on the sides, but it'll only take a few minutes to brown up. Once your tenderloins are brown all over, transfer them to a rack in a roasting pan. Now before I put this in the oven, I'm going to brush the tenderloins with a little bit of herbed mustard. This is just going to give it a little bit more flavor. I'm also going to sprinkle the roasts with some freshly ground black pepper. Now place the roasts in a 450-degree oven. After 15 minutes, check the internal temperature of the roast with a probe thermometer. Just stick the thermometer into the center of the meat. Now, I prefer my meat medium rare, so I'm looking for a temperature of 120 degrees. If you prefer your meat medium, you'll want a temperature of 125. Now, this is reading about 90 degrees, so I'll put the meat back in the oven and check it again in about 10 minutes. Perfect. Once your beef is cooked as you like it, the last step is to transfer it to a cutting board and let it rest at room temperature for 15 minutes. This is going to allow all of the juices to redistribute, giving you equally juicy meat throughout.